a young boy who dropped out of school at just 11 years old, who had nothing but a tiny boat and a burning dream, whose name today is written in golden letters across American history. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the complete story of the Commodore Cornelius Vanderbilt. Cornelius Vanderbilt, full biography. The Commodore, 1794 to 1877. Early life and family origins. Cornelius Vanderbilt was born on May the 27th, 1794 in Staten Island, New York, to Cornelius Vanderbilt and Phoebe Hand. His family's roots trace back centuries. His great-great-grandfather, Jan Aertsen, was a Dutch farmer from the village of Daybilt in Utrecht, Netherlands, who had immigrated to New York as an indentured servant in 1650. The Dutch Vander, meaning from, was eventually added to create Vanderbilt, which over generations condensed into Vanderbilt. His father instilled in him a blunt, straightforward demeanor, while his mother taught him frugality and the value of hard work. The family was far from wealthy. His father was an impoverished farmer and boatman. Vanderbilt began working on his father's ferry in New York Harbor as a boy, quitting school at the age of 11. He never learned to write proper English and instead spelled words phonetically, a handicap that plagued him throughout his life and caused his shunning by the social elite for many years. The $100 boat that started it all. At age 16, Vanderbilt ran a two-masted sailing vessel known as a periauger, with the understanding that he would share profits with his parents, who had supplied a loan. Through aggressive marketing, shrewd deals, and undercutting the competition, traits he would practice all his life, he earned more than $1,000 in his first year. At age 18, Vanderbilt contracted with the U.S. government to supply neighboring outposts during the War of 1812. He learned the art of shipbuilding and navigation in open water. Such was his energy and eagerness in his trade that other captains nearby took to calling him the Commodore in jest, a nickname that stuck with him for the rest of his life. Personal life and family. On December 19, 1813, much to the dismay of his parents, Vanderbilt married his first cousin, Sophia Johnson. The couple would eventually have 13 children, with 11 surviving to adulthood. His personal life was rocky. As successful as he was in business, he was a terrible father and husband. Vanderbilt reportedly had his son Cornelius Jeremiah twice committed to a lunatic asylum. After Sophia's death in 1868, Vanderbilt married a cousin from Mobile, Alabama, named Frank Armstrong Crawford, who was 43 years younger than her husband, on August 21, 1869, building a steamship empire. In 1817, Vanderbilt went to work as a ferry captain for a wealthy businessman, Thomas Gibbons, who owned a commercial steamboat service operating between New Jersey and New York. The job gave Vanderbilt the opportunity to learn about the burgeoning steamship industry. In the late 1820s, he went into business on his own, building steamships and operating ferry lines around the New York region. Shrewd and aggressive, he became a dominant force in the industry by engaging in fierce fare wars with his rivals. In some cases, his competitors paid him hefty sums not to compete with them. During the next decade, Vanderbilt gained control of the traffic on the Hudson River by cutting fares and offering unprecedented luxury on his ships. His hard-pressed competitors finally paid him handsomely in return for his agreement to move his operation. By 1846, the Commodore was a millionaire. The Nicaragua route and the gold rush. In the early 1850s, during the California Gold Rush, a time before transcontinental railroads, Vanderbilt launched a steamship service that transported prospectors from New York to San Francisco via a route across Nicaragua. His route was faster than the established route across Panama, and much speedier than the alternative around Cape Horn. Vanderbilt's new line was an instant success, earning more than $1 million a year. He quit the business only after his competitors, whom he had nearly ruined, agreed to pay him $40,000, later rising to $56,000 a month to abandon his operation. The pivot to railroads. By 1864, Vanderbilt had sold his steamships for $3 million. He then began to shift his investments into the railroad industry. He was nearly 70 and was worth not less than $20 million. Rather than building new lines, Vanderbilt's strategy was to buy stock in existing ones and take them over. In 1863, Vanderbilt took control of the New York and Harlem Railroad in a famous stock market corner and was elected its president. It had a key advantage. It was the only steam railroad to enter the center of Manhattan. He then went on a remarkable acquiring spree. He bought control of the Hudson River Railroad in 1864, the New York Central Railroad in 1867, and the Lake Shore and Michigan Southern Railway in 1869. When he added the Lake Shore and Michigan Southern Railroad in 1873, Vanderbilt was able to offer the first rail service from New York City to Chicago. This was a landmark achievement, connecting the entire northeastern United States under a single unified rail network. By unifying their service, he was able to standardize rail travel, helping with the transfer of baggage and cargo, as well as the introduction of a universal timetable. The railroads now ran on a single schedule with predictable service, all under one company. The Erie Railroad War, 1868. One of the most dramatic chapters of Vanderbilt's life was his battle for the Erie Railroad. Cornelius Vanderbilt, who had set his mind on building a railroad empire, decided in 1866 to corner the market on Erie by quietly buying up Erie Railroad stock. After succeeding, Vanderbilt permitted Daniel Drew to stay on the board as treasurer. Between 1866 and 1868, Daniel Drew conspired with James Fisk and Jay Gould, whom he brought onto the board, to issue fraudulent Erie Railroad shares, thus watering down the stock, of which unsuspecting Vanderbilt bought a large quantity. Vanderbilt lost more than $7 million in his attempt to gain control. Gould bribed the legislature to legalize the new stock. Vanderbilt used the leverage of a lawsuit to recover his losses, but he and Gould became public enemies. After the dust settled, Vanderbilt reportedly summed up the fiasco with the line, "Never kick a skunk." Grand Central Depot. Undeterred by his Erie losses, Vanderbilt pushed forward with his greatest physical monument. In 1871, Vanderbilt constructed Grand Central Depot at 42nd Street in Manhattan. The tracks were tunneled underground to avoid accidents with pedestrians. The lavish terminal used the latest technology and designs and remains the second busiest train station in North America. During the last years of his life, Vanderbilt ordered the construction of Grand Central Depot, a project that gave jobs to thousands who had become unemployed during the Panic of 1873. Philanthropy, Vanderbilt University. Unlike the Gilded Age titans who followed him, such as Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller, Vanderbilt did not own grand homes or give away much of his vast wealth to charitable causes. In fact, the only substantial philanthropic donation he made was in 1873, toward the end of his life, when he gave $1 million to build and endow Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. In a nod to its founder's nickname, the school's athletic teams are called the Commodores, Captain of Industry, or Robber Baron, for his monopoly on shipping and the railroads, facilitated in part by political manipulation. Vanderbilt is often described as either a captain of industry or a robber baron. In 1859, the New York Times coined the term robber baron to describe Vanderbilt and his ruthless efficiency in acquiring competing companies. Yet his biographer offered a more balanced verdict. T.J. Stiles writes that Vanderbilt vastly improved and expanded the nation's transportation infrastructure, contributing to a transformation of the very geography of the United States. Death and Will Vanderbilt died at age 82 on January 4, 1877, at his Manhattan home, and was buried in the Moravian Cemetery in New Dorp, Staten Island. He left the bulk of his fortune, estimated at more than $100 million, to his son William. William's eldest son, Cornelius Vanderbilt II, received $5 million in the will, while his three younger sons received $2 million apiece. Vanderbilt willed amounts ranging from $250,000 to $500,000 to each of his daughters. To his younger surviving son, Cornelius Jeremiah Vanderbilt, whom he regarded as a wastrel, he left only the income from a $200,000 trust fund. Legacy and net worth in today's money today, it is estimated that Vanderbilt would have been worth more than $200 billion, calculated against the nation's gross domestic product in 1877. This would make him the second wealthiest person in American history after Standard Oil co-founder John D. Rockefeller. The Vanderbilt mansions associated with the Gilded Age, including the Breakers in Newport, Rhode Island, and the Biltmore in Asheville, North Carolina, were built by Cornelius Vanderbilt's descendants. The 250-room Biltmore estate, constructed in the late 19th century by one of Vanderbilt's grandsons, is the largest privately owned home in the United States today. Among Vanderbilt's notable descendants are fashion designer Gloria Vanderbilt and her son, television news anchor Anderson Cooper. In 1999, Cornelius Vanderbilt was inducted into the North America Railway Hall of Fame, recognizing his significant contributions to the railroad industry. Quick facts at a glance. Detail info. Born May 27, 1794, Staten Island, New York, January 4, 1877. New York City, age 82. Nickname: the Commodore. Industries ferries to steamships to railroads, and worth at death approximately $100 million, $200 billion plus in today's value. Key achievement: first New York to Chicago rail service. Grand Central Depot philanthropy. Founded Vanderbilt University, 1873. Famous descendants: Gloria Vanderbilt, Anderson Cooper. Buried Moravian Cemetery, Staten Island. From a $100 borrowed boat to a $100 million empire, Cornelius Vanderbilt remains one of the most remarkable self-made success stories in all of American history. And that, my friends, was the incredible life of Cornelius Vanderbilt, a man who started with nothing and built an empire that changed America forever. Now I have a question for you, and I really want to know your answer. Drop in the comments below. Which billionaire or powerful person's story do you want me to cover next? Should it be John D. Rockefeller, the man who became richer than Vanderbilt; Andrew Carnegie, the steel king who gave it all away; J.P. Morgan, the banker who once saved the entire U.S. economy; or someone else completely? You decide my next video. Comment their name below. The most requested person wins. If this video gave you value, gave you inspiration, or taught you something new today, then please hit that like button right now. It takes just 1 second, but it helps this channel reach thousands more people who love history and success stories. And if you are new here, welcome. This channel is dedicated to bringing you the most powerful, untold stories of the world's greatest minds in business, history, and beyond. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a story, because trust me, the stories coming next, they're going to blow your mind. Until then, stay curious, stay hungry, and I will see you in the next one.